I'm an artist. I'm from Banff, Alberta originally on Treaty 7 territory, and I'm currently based in Vancouver, BC. It's the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations.
I'm Nahanni McKay. I'm also from Banff, Alberta, where I currently live, and I live on Treaty 7 territory, the home of the Stoney Nakoda, Blackfoot, and Tsuut'ina Nation.
We're both artists. We've known each other for a long time, so we went to elementary school, high school together, and then we both ended up at Emily Carr University in Vancouver together. So yeah, we've been in proximity for a long time, so it's cool to be able to work on a project like this together. My personal practice tends to revolve around organic aesthetics, I would say, to be general about it, but yeah, I jump around. I paint a lot.
So my main practice is photography, and just being a Métis artist myself, like I work on the decolonization of land, mainly national parks, because like I'm so inspired by our hometown that I just want what's best for it, if that makes sense. And I'm trying to break out of it into different textiles, so I'm really stoked to like collaborate with Ben, because I feel like his art is so inspiring, and he's inspiring, so it's really sweet to be in this space together.
It was probably 2018 or 2019 when we first started chatting about this, and we did a couple collaborations where I was remixing Nahanni's photography, and that led us to some of the work that's in this show, which is like the postcard format stuff, which is Nahanni's film photography that I'm collaging digitally and doing some digital painting and stuff. So that was, I guess, the impetus of this project, and yeah, it evolved from there pretty organically, and we put a little proposal together and sent it out to some places, and yeah, pretty stoked to end up here. And
we are so stoked to
yeah, really really happy to be here for sure.
Yeah. And previously, before he was injured, was in the ski community. I currently work in the ski community, and I think that's where the idea mainly came from, just like consumerism of the outdoor industry, and how like we, as just like outdoorsy people, are like, we always need the new gear, we always need this. It's like consumerism, and the same with gift shops, like the tourism industry, and being from Banff to have all of that in the same place. That's definitely where the idea came from, of being like a more sustainable way to have souvenirs, and it's
So yeah, I guess a big part of it was our lived experience, like being part of the outdoor recreation communities in various capacities, and yeah, just sort of understanding what role aesthetics plays within that, and what artists can do to contribute to communities within outdoor recreation spheres, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I think we're still really, I think this project's like a good iteration of that, and we're still teasing out what a potential future niche for it could be, and imagining, you know, what it would be like if we had like a pop-up space, like an actual physical gift shop, or we could host workshops or something. Would be cool, and then we can sort of expand it beyond just, you know, us two gossiping about souvenirs and you know, sort of having fun with all the kitschy culture that comes along with it. But yeah, as much as it's fun to sort of playfully joke at the kitschiness of it, I think during the process, I think it's been a reminder that we do actually really love making art about mountains and stuff too. So part of it's poking fun of it, but then like through the process, I think we both really actually love what we do.
yeah.
So it's kind of this double-edged sword, I guess, of like wanting to be a bit critical, but then also celebrate the culture too, and then asking what the value is of a souvenir, and yeah, what artists can do to contribute to that conversation.
I find that it's like funny that you're like, oh, like we love making mountain art, because we do, but I was personally made fun of it at art school.
Yeah.
It's like another landscape, really? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if you say landscape painting in certain spheres, like with institutional art, you know, it's almost like people roll their eyes immediately. So there's definitely part of that I think is valid, and there's a lot of kind of boring, you know, traditional landscape art out there. But
Yeah.
I do think there's definitely like a lot of interesting and really engaging content that you can explore within that as well.
I think that's like why we love this show, is because we're just like mixing the two. We're just like, okay, we're like contemporary artists, but like we also love mountains.
Yeah.
But
I think what we're attempting to do is find the different roles that like images, like culture essentially can play within that. So what is the influence of a souvenir on someone? Like if we're perpetuating images about teddy bears and cartoon images of animals, what are the tangible impacts that has on a place? And it's not always easy to quantify, and it's a bit of a slippery thing with a lot of art. I think it's hard to always see the tangible impacts it has. Not to say that it doesn't, though. I think there are some like pretty obvious examples for like how art is mediated on social media, and how there's even been trends within the outdoor community where people will stop geotagging places because they don't want like, people going there. So there's all these different ways that things are rapidly changing with the way that we consume things online, and I think like as artists that's like an interesting point of entry for us, is to really figure out what our role is and what role images play within that culture, and yeah, how that affects people's behavior in the real world as well. It I guess came from the desire to play with the kitschiness of souvenirs, and realistically what we're comfortable working in. So I do a lot of painting, so there's a lot of painting in the show. I started using polymer clay, which is a fun medium. It sort of has this, I mean, it's called clay, which initially you see, like, oh, it's, clay has a value associated with it, I guess. And then polymer clay is almost like, you go to Michael's and you buy it. It's more of a casual, like, crafty sort of version of the material, I guess, which I thought fit really well. And you can just make a lot of stuff out of it. And I can, work with it in my home studio, put it in my oven. Yeah, lots of stuff we worked on digitally together as well, using Nahanni's film photography.
yeah, I chose to use felt pennant flags for one of my objects, because I feel like those pennant flags that you see like are the most like kind of kitschy tourist thing that you can do, and it always has its place, but there's none that say like native land or like what. It's always like there's always like a headdress or some sort of indigenous person like on that pennant flag. So I was just like, no, it's stolen land. So I like made the pennant and then put stolen land on it, because that's where we are essentially. If we were to be on Turtle Island, or we are on Turtle Island in Canada. And then the other object I wanted to use, I really wanted to use the 3D printer that I was lucky enough to use at the Banff Center. So I wanted to take a physical object, like a rock, that we're not allowed to take out of the park, but like 3D print it and then like take it out of the park because it's a rock, but it's not really a rock. I think that's like one of my favorite things that I've done at the Banff Center, for sure. And then my found object is taxidermy, because I kind of wanted it to be like an old man's cabin too. I was like, what do people have on their wall that doesn't make sense? Like fish, taxidermied fish. And I'm like, oh, here we go. So I just took it from my parents' gift shop.
I don't know that we started making the work with an idea in mind of what we wanted people to think or do after they see it. But I hope that it will stimulate conversations at least, and get people to think about why they hold value in different items and what the value of a souvenir might be for them or might not be for them. Think a little bit about how souvenirs can support local communities or not, and what ways a gift shop might have a potentially beneficial role within a community, and some things they might engage in might not have a beneficial role for the community. So I think one of the main things we're touching on with this is, or like poking fun at with the show, I guess, is sort of how things can be mass produced. and outsourced. So like while we were doing research, we found these magnets that you can order on Amazon. So you can, I just looked up like Lake Louise magnet on Amazon and found these magnets with like camels and giraffes on them and things like that, which I think those are clear examples to me of like, this is a thing I don't really think we need. And I think within, you know, capitalism, you can basically make whatever you want in whatever quantity you want, and no one's going to tell you not to do it. So that was another aspect of what we were thinking about, is like, what if we just order 150 pens, you know, just because we can, and just, you know, here's 150 pens, and just having things in that mass quantity, I think, reframes the way you think about it.
All have BAM spelled incorrectly as well, was a big key in it.
Yeah.
We're like, we need it.
Yeah, another aspect of mass production too is, you know, there's often errors, or if they're produced by someone who's, you know, never been to Banff or doesn't know any better, for, you know, it's innocent really at the end of the day. But yeah, we're sort of poking fun at just like misspelling things intentionally,
and just like, I think it's also like ties into Indigenous art, where it's like a lot of people in the gift shop I work at like come to Canada for the first time, and they're like, we want something like authentically Indigenous, and it's like, okay, I can show you what we have. Like the really handmade stuff is like $400 or $500, and then you have like trinkets that are like Indigenous design but not made, and it's just like being more aware of what you're purchasing, like as a visitor, and like what you take back with you, because like I just find that like there's a lot of cultural appropriation in gift shops and Indigenous art as well. So that was like a big part for me, for my part of this exhibition. That was like what I wanted to bring out. That's hence like the pen and flag. So yeah, so that's like also what I want to make the visitor and the aware of, is just always look at who it's made by. Is it locally made? And it's like, it's fine if it's not like a handmade mug with like a Indigenous Northwest Coast design or something on it, but like, where is the money going to? Is the artist being paid? I think is the big one, and it's important for both of us that we know where the money's going to when it comes to art.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing we've been talking about a lot is sort of not wanting to criticize gift shop owners either too. And I think in general it is not easy for people to make money sometimes, and those sort of products that have those favorable margins where you can outsource the production and stuff is a reliable source of income for people. And yeah, you can criticize it, but at the end of the day, you know, there is a lot of people who rely on their income from stuff like that. But I don't think that means we can't shift towards improving it either. Like, I think you can still have affordable art that, you know, that people can survive. People can, I should say, you know, have a successful business while still supporting local artists. I don't think they need to rely on, you know, stuff that's made elsewhere and shipped in or anything like that. I think there are positive ways to move forward, but yeah, I can kind of see where, you know, business owners feel like they might have their hands tied in some cases, where they're like, well, this is how I pay my rent, right? So yeah, I think it's more of a systemic issue at the end of the day, that there are things we can do to move towards a better future, but it's not always easy to imagine what those are.